Okay, so I've started the recording and let me just double check with Facebook Live. It's preparing.
Okay.
We like to see it like it's okay. Here we go. Okay, and we are moments away from being live on Facebook. He is now streaming live on Facebook. Great. Okay, success. Awesome. Well, welcome everyone to Connect and Create. This is episode 31, and I have the fabulous Lacey Longino with us today. And I'm Karina Sephora. And before we get started, I'd like to share with you a little bit about how this program began during the, I would say, the height of the pandemic and the stay at home. Being a social hermit that I am and getting a little tired of the hermit side, I thought it would be nice to connect with people. I had some friends who created a program similar, which they do every morning, and they still have it going actually. And I was a guest speaker on theirs, and I was so excited about this opportunity to, interact with people that I know and love and would normally see or even meet strangers. So I kept recommending people to theirs, which is called the Daily Huddle, happens every morning at 9 a.m. And then I thought, wait a minute, Karina, if you're this excited about this, maybe you could create your own version. And so that's exactly how this came to be. And now we are, as I mentioned, at episode 31. And so I'm super excited to have Lacey with us today. We had a conversation about this and over brunch recently and decided it would be a great match. And anything you'd like to say before I share your fabulous bio with people?
I don't think so. Hi, thanks for coming. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited.
This is going to be great.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to generate a bit of your bio. And of course, I know you. And what I'm looking forward to, I have to say, is getting to know you even better. We've had this relationship where we always see each other at events and we have great brief conversations. I know you got to visit my studio, years ago with Hope. And so I'm really looking forward to getting to know you a little better and you sharing who you are with everyone that's on this platform.
Amazing.
So great. So Lacey is a mixed media painter and muralist, and she received her BFA from Georgia State University in 2015. And she's known for bright and imaginative works that combine funky patterns with realistic portraits. Beneath the surface, the work indicates her deep attachment to family and the nostalgic concepts of home. Longino's paintings and murals are based upon the happier elements of our past and foster a lasting imprint of positivity in those who view them. In addition to being exhibited throughout Atlanta and established venues such as ABV Gallery and Downtown Players Club, Longino's work has been adapted for numerous building facades and the interiors of a variety of businesses. The goal of these large-scale public works is to infuse community spaces with awe-inspiring color and joy. I have to say, I love how you document and share what you're up to when you were doing those. They would look like orange slices in the pool area. Yes. It was like every day, you'd post some new step of it. And so I'm very process oriented. So I have to say, I just really love that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we've got a little more to share. So after attending residencies in Tennessee and Catalonia, is that the Greece one? Catalonia, Greece? Mm-hmm. Okay. And completing her master classes at the New York Academy of Art in New York City, Longino has resettled herself in her hometown of Atlanta, Georgia. The Chosewood Park neighborhood is Longino's home base for exploring personal projects and working on inspired public commissions, which I'm super excited you're going to share a little with us today.
Yes.
So welcome and thank you so much for being here. And I know I got a little tiny preview of what you're going to be sharing. And thank you, Jerry and Lisa and Sandra, and everyone else who's joining us on Facebook Live. Thank you so much for being here. So, Lacey.
Yeah.
What would you like to share with us today?
So, should I go ahead and share my screen?
You can, if there's anything else you want to say beforehand, or if you want to jump right in, up to you. The floor is yours.
I think I'll just jump right in.
Jump in. No pun intended.
Right? Okay, here we go. Share screen. This one. Y'all don't want to see my desktop because it is crazy. Okay, here we go. So yeah, I am super excited that you invited me to come. I haven't done many artist talks or interviews or anything. And so, yeah, I tried to, edit, keep it short and sweet, but I really just want to talk about process in the studio and life and muraling, because there is so much of a process that goes into muraling. But I want to just zip through my background a little bit for those of y'all that don't know me. So I grew up at the lake. I grew up with tons of cousins. That's kind of where the family comes from. We spent summers up there, and winter we would go every, winter break when school let out. And we lived in Cumming and then in Roswell in the burbs of Atlanta. But the lake was really where we spent majority of our time. And then at the lake, my grandmother, they were both painters, and they taught me to paint in the garage studio. So there were two houses, the Longinos and the Dailies. The Dailies is my mom's and the Longinos is my dad's. And they met there when they were 10. So then when they got married, everyone became cousins. And both my grandmothers being painters, they would paint together, and I learned a lot from them. I painted my first hydrangea in the garage studio. And so art has kind of always been something that I've done. I'm a big crafter. My mom's a big crafter. My dad works in the building industry. So creative has always been something that's been a part of our lives. It was always go outside or go make something and don't come home till dinner. So yeah, I graduated from Georgia State, and this is probably the only good painting from undergrad, which is how it's supposed to go. I was painting, this painting's like 5 by 6 feet, and I was painting all these tiny things blown up on a huge scale. And shortly after graduation, I almost immediately got a studio at the B Complex, where I stayed for 4 years. And this space, I had 2 spaces there. I had the one directly next to this one. And then this was Stacy Rose's old studio. And I had never really known I'd seen pictures of studios, and I was like, oh, they're so amazing. Like I want to live that life. I want to do that. And when I graduated, I started working for Sarah Emerson, and she was the first taste of what a real working artist life is like. She had just gotten the Working Artist Award at Mocha GA, and I was her apprentice. And so I would go to her studio, prime the canvases. She let me paint like a little bit, but I couldn't paint very well then. And it was just super cool to see how involved her whole family is, and the hours that she would work, and just how she was a mom and also had a very successful, painting career. Still does. She's a badass. So she taught me a lot about having a studio. And so then this is the main space at the B Complex. And I was kind of following Sarah. It was like, okay, Sarah does murals. I want to try to learn to do murals. Sarah is having a solo show. I need a solo show. So I literally, after undergrad, was going gallery to gallery to like Kai Lin, Alan Avery, showing them my undergraduate work and being like, hey, I want to have a show here. And I remember Kai Lin answered back, and he was like, I like appreciate like how like brave you were to just like send your work and show up and introduce yourself. Really the only good painting is this one, and you just don't really have the direction, and I just kept hearing you need a solo show. So I decided to save up some money, rent the main space, and put on my own solo show. So there's baby Lacey. This was 2016. I built all the paintings, all the stretcher bars. All of the fabric was sewn together. It was a massive show. There were 22 paintings, I think 24 drawings. I did prints, I did sculpture. I had a couch that I built. It was insane. My family and friends helped me put all of it together. And without them, it would have been a hot mess. This was the flyer piece, popcorn. I actually, if you can see back there, that's the first popcorn my grandmother painted. Gosh, I don't even know, back in the 70s. And I kind of got inspired from that and started painting popcorn. These are some of the drawings. I was also doing large scale figurative work, taking my own photos. These are all on bed sheets from that lake house. So all the floral patterns in the background are all the bed sheets. I took them, ripped them up, and painted on them. It was, you know, an aesthetic choice, but also I couldn't afford canvas. So it was like, what can I paint on? And bed sheets are super cheap, especially at Goodwill. They're like $2. And I love having something to start with. It's like a problem to solve rather than just a white blank canvas. So yeah, a little more, you know, figurative. That's actually Abigail Jessman. She does the Shower House Gallery. She was my muse for, I want to say like a year or two. Then after that solo show, I had another one I think it was like 3 months after the first one. And it was at Made Again. It was like this small store / gallery in Inman Park. And I was making paintings like these, figurative, but they had more of a sense of space to them. And then I went to Greece. So throughout all of those shows, I was working on the side. I was bartending, and I was also painting hand-painted beer logos at Taco Max with this guy that I went to college with, Sean Curtis. And I was always doing these large-scale oil paintings, and sign painting was kind of my first step into muraling. And then when Craig Dengowski, who's from Georgia State, reached out and was like, hey, we're going to go paint a mural in Greece. And I was like, oh, amazing. Like, I want to get into the murals, but I didn't grow up doing graffiti or anything like that. So I wasn't really exposed to it until college. So went to Greece. That's the crew that all painted. We had a blast, painted this school. And yeah, it was amazing. I think that was like my first large scale one. Then I began assisting. Let me get my notes here because I feel like I'm going a little out of, let's see. Okay. So then I was working for Buckhead Murals when I got back from Greece. They are a corporate mural company. They do school gyms, hand-painted signs. They do oil paintings. And at the time, we were building a massive painting for Jake Messing. He's an artist out in California. And it all went to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It's 3 paintings. 2 are 14 by 40 feet, and the largest one is 20 by 30 feet. So at the B complex, in another studio space, Buckhead Murals rented, they were building these stretcher bars as well as painting this figurative oil painting. It's all these referees, and they're like pulling on each other, and then they dogpile on the big one. It's a great image. And when I was priming the canvas, I was like, why can't I paint this big? Like, yeah, murals, but also I want to paint this large on canvas like he is, so why can't I? So my wall in the studio was 25 by 9 feet. I sewed together a bunch of canvas and basically just tacked it up on the wall, put like a little 2x4 in between so it could breathe, you know? And I feel like this painting, I learned how to spray paint better because I had never spray painted. And that was something that I needed to learn, wanted to learn. I still oil painted. I did their faces in oil, but I was also using house paint and learning how to mix house paint because it has so much white in it. And I probably spent, I don't even know, like 6 or 8 months on this painting and would just paint stuff out and redo it and move this figure here. And I learned so much. Then I put it away. Then I came back and started light tracking on it. And this was actually last summer, and it's at the space. This is at the lake, and all the people in it are from the lake. So it felt very, I don't know, I feel like this was a big pivot in my work, especially going that large with the figure. So after Buckhead Murals, I'm still at the B complex. I start working for Hope Cone Projects and learn kind of the backside of, art consulting. And with that, I got a couple of mural opportunities, which was this one. I don't know if I would ever do a mural with this many letters in it. I had assistants. My team was Matt Evans, Trey Roselle, and Joe Haddon, and they all went to Georgia State. So it was a Georgia State alumni mural, and it's actually over at Atlanta Dairies in the bike room. And it was a blast to paint, or it was a learning curve. It always is. There's always something. At that same time, Hope gave me this opportunity for the drip mural. And I think this is kind of the first time when I was like, okay, I'm not just painting murals, you know, assisting and helping other people out. Like, this is something that I want to do. Like, I love all of the color. I love the process. It's very loose. And so I think this was one of my first, you know, game changers, if you will. Then I met Mike Jones when I was working for Hopecomb and learned a lot of painting from him. And he curated this car wash mural like festival thing at Lane Draft House over off the Beltline. And this was the first, other than the drip mural, I guess this was the second time that I was allowed complete creative freedom. And it was like, do whatever you want, which doesn't happen often for large scale, you know, murals. So that's me and my brother. And we actually had a photo shoot in the car wash. Just some details. Then came, let's see, I took a year off in between these murals and this mural, had some life stuff, got married, got divorced, then came back to Atlanta. I was in Savannah, came back to Atlanta, and this was one of my first murals that I did with Amy Perry Projects at Amley Lennox. And this is a level of drip that I'm so excited about. I think the direction of this is exciting. I love it on the ceiling. So yeah. But I guess the big question and what I really want to talk to y'all about is how painting murals, because whenever I'm out there painting or assisting, you know, I work with Ryan Coleman a lot. People always come up and they say, you know, how? Like, where do you even start? And so I kind of just want to talk about the projects that I've been doing recently and how. So this is kind of where the design process starts. Oh, technological. Okay. So I am so inspired from paper, magazines, high fashion magazines, interior design. I love Architectural Digest and Domino. I love the colors. And so I spread out like this and I just get as much imagery. This book here is full of images. That picture's like, was in my grandmother's painting stuff. And I save a lot and kind of refer back to it and it'll trigger something in my mind. And I'm like, oh yeah, I wanted to paint that in a mural or whatever. So then, you know, you go through the digital process. I do digital renderings. They are mediocre. Digital renderings are super hard, but you know, I'm getting better at them. And after that, then you project and you call your friends for help, because when walls are this large, you definitely need another set of eyes, another pair of hands, and it just makes the process so much smoother. I mean, I want to assist for the rest of my life. I, again, you know, work with Ryan Coleman a lot and I love it because you show up, you paint, you don't have to do any of the like planning, logistics, ordering paint, stuff like that. You just show up and do what you love. And so this is Trey Roselle. He went to Georgia State, is also a really good painter. Doesn't do murals yet, but I'm pushing him that way. I'm like, come on, let's get you going. But a little bit more about the imagery. I take my own images like all the time. I think most artists are always looking at things differently, looking at the light, photographing things. So I had the pleasure in this most recent mural that I am almost done with, that's 5 stories, to be here for 6 months before the mural began. And so only half of the apartment community was built and the other half where my wall was a construction zone. And so I got to see the property really evolve. I was the first person to live here, literally nobody else and me in a whole apartment complex. I was a little bit scared. But so I get to go for walks on the Beltline, and these, the one on the left and the one in the middle, those are my flowers on my patio. And the little pretty weeds are from the Beltline, but I got to experience the places it was growing also as the seasons changed, the flowers changed. And I loved seeing what weeds would come up next on the Beltline. And so I guess that's just a little bit more of where a lot of imagery comes from, is kind of constantly looking at things and taking photos and then scrolling back and being like, oh yeah, that's a really beautiful picture. I want to paint that. Another, I guess tools is a huge part of muraling. This brush on the left is my go-to. It's the 4-inch, it's firm. The softer brushes don't work as well on walls because the walls are so textured and like cinder blocks that you need something stiff to be able to pull that paint and get the gesture that you want. As you can see, the lift kind of stays messy. I've got, you know, my spray cans. I mostly work with quart size and just get gallons for, you know, the background stuff. But I've got rollers, I've got stencils, I've a bunch of different, you know, different sized brushes. So here's a video of dry brushing. And it really just pushes your background back. And it feels a little bit scary when you first put it on there, because it's like, oh gosh, if I put too much on there, it might totally paint out, you know. It takes a little bit of finessing and a lot of like wiping on a towel or your pants. And I also love working reductively. I think with muraling, something that I am striving to do moving forward is finding a balance between, you know, the work that you make in the studio and the marks that you're making and how to translate those on a massive scale. So I work reductively when I do portrait painting a lot. And I love that process. I love painting super thick and scraping away, and then the underlying color comes forward. And so I was kind of in a flow state out there, and I was like, why don't I like sign my name, you know, carve it out, and I'll definitely sign it where you can actually read it. But yeah, another technique is definitely learning spray and all the different caps. That's the fine line cap. Another little video of brushing. I don't think that a lot of the murals that I'm looking at, they use mostly spray. And when I first started this mural, I was like, is this bad that I'm not using mostly spray? Like, I am going to brush this 5-story wall. Is that insane? But I don't think it is. There's a lot of European artists that use brushes and mops and brooms, and so kind of watching them online got me my confidence back. This is a little teaser. I'm finishing the mural tomorrow. So there are some drips in there, but you can't see them obviously in the large pic. And so I'm gonna paint them thicker. But I wanted to show this picture on the right as another like process thing. I recently got an iPad, and it's so hard to finish a painting in the studio. It's even harder to finish a painting when you have the creative freedom that I've had on this mural. So I write my notes like this, and then I have the picture on my phone, so I don't even have to bring the iPad up, and I do these things. And then I'm like, okay, that's it, no more. Talking more about process, I wanted to talk about light tracking. This was back at the B complex. Do you remember when the, what was it, the eclipse? The solar eclipse? Lunar eclipse?
Lunar eclipse, yeah.
Lunar, yeah. That was one of the first times I light tracked, but I've been doing this for a long time, just kind of privately. I haven't really shown much work or, you know, and it's basically tracking the shadow shapes in the day and at night. At night, they're obviously much more controllable because it's synthetic. But during the day, they move so quick, and you're able to get these beautiful gestures. And especially at the B complex, the light there is just phenomenal. And so it definitely is something that I have now added into my murals. So this one on the left, this is at the bottom of the 5-story mural. And I was so excited because I had been working, I don't know, 6 a.m. until about 3. And one day life happened. I got out there late. And so I was out there in the blazing sun at 6 o'clock. But I think it was meant to happen because I saw these shadows and I hadn't seen the shadows before. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've always wanted to light track on a mural, but have never, the light just hasn't been right. So, the music. I do it on paper as well. So just tracing the shadow shapes with different tools. There's the dog. Different thicknesses. Another process is Pounce pattern, which I didn't use it on the 5-story. I definitely used it on another one that I'll show you in a minute. So Pounce pattern is basically old school sign painters technique. You don't have to use a projector because sometimes you can't use a projector. Like this image that I painted on the ground, where would you put the projector? And you actually have a lot more control when you do the Pounce pattern. I am doing it the cheap way with the little leather cutting tool, but there is an electric table and you move a pen across it and it's like metal, paper, pen. And you draw over what you've projected and it pokes tiny little holes. And then you pounce. Sometimes people use charcoal. I like the chalk because it doesn't make as large of a mess. This is another kind of stenciling. So this is what my mom's half bath. This was one of the first stenciling projects. She lets me paint everything, which is amazing. She flips houses and she kind of lets me do whatever in them if I want to paint the patio or want to paint the half bath. So this is just another like stencil technique. It's cut out of cardboard and then I actually threw it away and only had to use one for this. This stencil process is definitely a bit more tedious. This is just Durlar and they are, let me flip forward so you guys can see the finished products. So that's from a hand cut stencil that I made, as well as this. This one I actually rolled. So as you can see here, where it says stencil, I made 2 of them. And I got the circle, good enough. And I actually roll painted that one and then came back with a brush and touched it up. It was on the ground. And for this guy, I had to make like 8 or 9 different stencils because they kept getting so caked up because I was spraying it. But yeah, you can see the process on the left and, I had to come back with the skinny cap on the spray can and kind of fill it in. But yeah, I think the next, am I going over or anything?
You're good. You're good.
Okay, cool. So that's kind of process with murals and different techniques that you can use. Call me if you need help. But I'm also super excited about this new venture in my work, which is a textile piece. It's with Amy Perry Projects. This is the rendering. And the ladies approached me and they were like, can you make this? And I was like, absolutely, let's do it. It's all hand-dyed fabric that is sewn together. It's 14 by 15 feet. So this is kind of just a little video of the dyeing process, which took a long time. That's kind of what I did all of quarantine with the rest of the world. I wasn't tie-dyeing, but I was dyeing. These are the samples. I made a lot of samples and went over to Amy's house and brought 3 bags full of samples and was like, what do you think? She was like, this is so much to look at. So this is kind of how it looks in my sketchbook on the left. Because when you're working on a project this large, it's like, oh God, where do we start? And so I started with a list. I had this, trusty Excel spreadsheet with all of them. And this is a little teaser on the right of, I think this was the first time I installed it. Now they have cleats at the top. They are much more, much better put together like this. This is all 63 of them. They all are different and yeah, I'm super excited about it. So you guys will have to, final pictures of the mural are coming this week. and the textile piece is done as of today, which is exciting. And once we install that, there'll be final pictures of that. But it's a big week, and yeah. Questions? I feel like I talked so much.
Well, first of all, Lacey, thank you so much. That was so great to take that whole journey along with you. And those of you, also, if you want to put your website in the chat, people can copy and paste that.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Can I go away from screen share maybe?
Yeah, you can stop screen sharing.
Okay, there we go.
Yay.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, first of all, I created a bunch of questions, and I made some notes for questions because I was so intrigued with your process and how thorough you are. And there may be some other people with questions as well.
Okay.
But first of all, I just want to acknowledge you and say what a fabulous job you did of putting that whole story together and, sharing your journey and then really creating a space to be, I want to say like helpful or of service to other people that are, maybe on the same path that you are. So thank you for being so generous.
Totally. I mean, so many people helped me along the way that I want to, teach others and help others.
Yeah, definitely. So I was really intrigued by your light tracking.
Okay.
Conversation about the light tracking and how you talked about the eclipse. And I was curious if you made any finished pieces, from that, if you, what happened with that light tracking that you did at that very momentous time in history.
Right. Yeah. So I actually have one, it's a square, and it's the one that was in the photo. I want to get it framed. I did it on both sides of the paper, and it happened so fast that that's really all I had time for, but I did it with graphite and soft pastel. And I also, when I track light, I write the coordinates on the paper so that I know, like, if I went back next year at the same time, I mean, not with the eclipse, but with other light tracking at the same time, if the weather had maybe been the same, that light would be very close to what it was last year. So I do the coordinates. So I just have that one piece, but yeah.
Yeah, that was incredible. I'd love to see that in person at some point.
Yeah.
And, we've got a comment from Lisa. Lisa, if you want, you can come off of mute and ask your question, or if you want, I can read it, either one.
I talked to Lacey about this before, but my genuine obsession with her light tracking concept, just because it's tracking something fleeting, and also everybody likes, the softness that can be brought by florals and things like that, but could be an amazing application on a building to talk about, a softness and memory of what became before that development project or something. I just think there's so many ways that you could apply that to both murals and fabric and two-dimensional work as well. So I think it's really cool, and I hope Lacey, that continues to do that.
Thank you. I think I definitely will. Next, after these two projects, my patio gets amazing light, like awesome light. And so I want to build a couple stretcher bars and build them as exterior ones and keep them out there and just track light over the next, several months.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Nice. Have you ever tried any cyanotype type of, like where you get a photo emulsion and paint it on things and then?
Yeah, I definitely should. I remember learning it in undergrad, but then kind of forgot about it. And, but I think it would be awesome to add to it as well.
Cool. Awesome. I had another quick question, and that was the grease mural. You showed like a whole bunch of shots of that. And how do you think that experience influenced or informed, your work once you came back to the States? Or
it was awesome to work on a team because I was working for Buckhead Murals at the time, and I was pretty much by myself. They would kind of leave me at the murals and just let me go. So I think what I got out of it was that I do love working with a team, but also that it's okay for a mural to have loose and gestural, marks in it. I think sometimes murals get so tight, and it's almost like you're just recreating this graphic image, which is super good for certain muralists. But as far as like my work goes in the studio, like I want to translate that same gestural, you know, painterly quality on the wall. And I think in Greece, you know, we didn't have a projector. We had one rinky-dink ladder and each other. And so it was very painterly, and it was just so fun. There was no tape. There was, I mean, it just was all painterly. So I think I took away that, you know, you can keep it loose out there.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, of course, I've got a couple more questions, but I want to leave some space for anyone else, Jerry or Sandra, or I'll check our Facebook Live and see if we've got any questions there. We've got some comments.
There was, I mean, it just...
It's a couple minutes behind on Facebook Live. We have a time warp here. Anyone have any particular comments or questions they'd like to share with Lacey? Oh, we've got someone coming from Poland on the Facebook Live, and she's got a couple questions, and she loves what you're up to.
Thank you.
Isn't that why I like the way your face looked, all the way from Poland?
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, so she's curious about the materials and the tools and what you need to play the game. And the question is, where is that? Do you have a larger picture? I'll ask her, do you mean the last mural? I think that's what she means.
Mural?
Yeah.
So on my Instagram, let me just put it in the chat. My website is under Reno right now.
Oh, yeah.
If I put the chat on here, will it go to Facebook?
Let's see. I can put it on. I don't know. It's a good question, but I can put it on in the chat. It's at Lacey Longino, not Longino, like I want to.
What was the other part?
Where is it located? And let's see.
It's in Atlanta. It's off of the new part of the Beltline at an apartment community called the Skylark.
Okay, great.
Yep.
So if you're listening still, Annalise, it is, it's in Atlanta. Okay, the beautiful one with the flowers. There you go. That's the reach of Facebook Live, right, Lacey? You get to.
Cool. Yeah, that's amazing.
Broadcast all the way to Poland.
Yeah. Hi.
Okay, so let me see. Let me put this up here. So anything else anyone would like to share, or any questions? Further questions? Anyway, she says it's beautiful, and she says thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So how was that for you, Lacey, to go through that whole, I know for myself, every time I put together a presentation and it's like, you know, you're so involved with it, and you share this whole large period of your life with other people. What was the experience like for you to look back all the way to, and I love the way you shared about your families, and I had no idea about the sheets. That was really intriguing, that recycling right there.
Yeah. Yes, totally. It's always weird. I always feel like I'm talking way too much or too fast, or, but you know, I did it. I'll be better at the next one. And yeah, I mean, it was cool to kind of look back. I haven't in a while. And I think it's important for all of us to kind of slow down, you know, not look in the past too much, but remember, like, we're in a good spot, and we're, you know, I'm doing good things, and I've, you know, been hustling for so long, and I feel like now I'm starting to get the larger projects and get the projects that I was assisting on, you know. So it's exciting. Some of the work I'm just like, ooh, but.
Yeah, and that one with the fabric, that was really amazing. I remember I love following you. I love following you on Instagram.
Thank you.
You do such a great, thorough job of sharing your process, and process is so important, right?
Totally.
Something step over a lot of time. You oftentimes just see the finished product, and sometimes people like to keep their process a secret, but there's like a certain part of the way that you share your process that I think that it's kind of exciting to see a project come to life.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious about the fibers project, if there's anything. I call it fibers, but you know, the dyed cloth. And yeah. I love how you had those little, like how they were going to be tied together, you know, like the different process of like putting it together and plotting it out and then creating a finished product?
Yeah, it's been a huge learning curve because I'm always doing murals. It's 2D. I know what issues come up during murals. I know how to troubleshoot them. And it's, I don't really have any issues anymore in murals, but something that is hanging on the wall. I was telling Megan Mossholder, my neighbor, the other day, I came to her and I was like, how do I hang this large of a piece? Like, it's 14 by 15 feet and it's going in a 2-story commercial building lobby. And I was like, I was just thinking T-pins, on all 4 corners. And she was like, no, there's no way. So I definitely learned a lot. I had to rip the whole thing apart and put it back together. But now, yeah, I can add that to my repertoire and it's going to be good. It's finally at a point. Amy came over yesterday.
Great.
And it's finally at a point where it's like, okay, you got it. We're good.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, we've got a couple more comments. Lisa's commented that she loves your hustle. Keep up the good work. That's encouraging. We love Lisa. And Sandra says, Lacey, you're so amazing. Loved hearing your creative story. And we will have more laughter from Lisa. So thank you so much for being here today. And as we wrap it up, what would your last words be? What would you like to share with your audience right here in our Zoom studio and abroad, all the way across the world?
Wow. I think just a huge thank you, and walk slow and drink a lot of water. Take it one day at a time.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being a part of this. Thank you for being episode 31 and making it such a fabulous day.
Yeah.
I've loved getting to know you and your process and your journey. Those of you, so thank you so much, Lacey.
Thank you.
Yeah. Those of you that are out there, if you have a story of your creative journey that you'd like to share, please feel free to message me. And we have a couple of the next sessions booked, but we are always looking for new talent. I forgot to say this earlier, but I also received a grant from Fulton County for a creative project. And this is part of what I'm using the funding for to produce this.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So thank you, Fulton County. And thank you, everyone who has contributed to making that happen. Grant writing isn't an easy thing. It's very specific. And the only other thing I'll say is I have a really fun course that's starting tomorrow called Big Vision. And you can see it on my website in classes. And it's about speaking your big vision of who you are as an artist and a creative person, and lots of tools and practices to lead you down that road. So you can check that out at my website. It's karinasephora.com. And it's been a pleasure being here with you, Lacey, and everyone. Jerry, thank you for making it. I've seen you on the Facebook Live a few times, but this is the first time you made it in our studio audience. So thank you, Jerry, for being a part of it, and everyone else.
Thanks, y'all.
All right. Until next week.
All right. See you.
Ciao.